And welcome to the Badger Cave's West Wing, where our stealthy polecats ferret out the best feels, funnies, and what the fucks to discuss Slam Bam Badger style. Your sinuous hosts for this evening are myself, Supreme Doge in charge, our polecat punster Hannah, Dr. Random McCam, Panda at Large, Max Simpson Kin, not jaundiced, Taskmaster Allison, and our Anchorilla Scott. This evening we'll be covering the following topics. Ecuador cuts off Julian Assange. The internet seeks justice. CNN will tell you what's in the emails. They know what's best. Trust them. Gallup inexplicably name drops Trump while they also create rape hysteria with their shit data. Huffington Post explains that while there is no rape culture in the U.S., there totally is IRL you guys. And finally, our bonus story.
Our bonus story? Oh, good. I love the bonus story. That's my favorite.
I love the bonus story. For the patron-only after show. 6 things a feminist woman who dates men should look for if they want to ensure long-lasting bitterness, and they love cats a lot. Any way you want to listen to this topic or enjoy further personalized discussion with the Badgers on select topics, become a patron at www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. And now we will try once again to get back into it. Now,
I apologize for the technical difficulties. It wasn't us who was
sorry, guys. This is what happens when you put 3 honey badgers in a rape dungeon.
I didn't do nothing.
Didn't see nothing.
Yeah, no, it's just right now we're trying to figure out, and unfortunately, we really cannot. We have no ability to not do this live. Like, seriously, guys, if we could practice not live, and then, because we do practice not live, and then when we go live, everything goes to shit. Don't know why. Maybe it's just because we're trying to create a media company in the middle of a fucking prairie.
Yeah.
Tell the prairie to stop doing that. That creates a terribly bumpy ride.
The prairie to stop. Oh, fucking.
Don't jinx the fucking stream, scrubs. That's from Teal Deer. Thank you. All right, we're working on it. So let's do all this shit again. We're gonna do some buffering apologia. Looking back, I'm gonna go ahead and minimize this shit window because I don't give a fuck about it.
Okay, but I will say this: it's really awesome to be able to work with Brian and Mike in person.
For what it's worth.
Fucking right in the pussy.
You can do anything you want. You can grab him by the pussy. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be great until the AC stuff's working, Allison. There's going to be a different story up in that place.
The AC?
Stops working.
What, you mean the air conditioning?
Yes.
We don't need air conditioning here.
Yes.
You will become a victim of the patriarchic.
If you are overheated, you really need to step outside the door for 1 second.
All right.
You are frozen, and then you step back in.
Well, that's only this time of year.
Yeah, there you go.
No, even in the summer, it's generally nice and balmy.
So how are we doing, guys? Is this better?
Woohoo!
All right, well, let me know when you can, chat. I know there's a lag. So let's get back on Julian Assange. I want to give Hannah the opportunity to do her little summarization, but let me read a little bit of this website, justiceforassange.com, that just sort of, I think it's relatively recent. Apparently, just so you know, Julian Assange, 2143 days under house arrest. The UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention has found that Julian Assange is being arbitrarily and unlawfully detained by Sweden and the United Kingdom, and that he must be immediately released and compensated. The working group spent 16 months investigating the case before issuing the opinion. The process was adversarial. The UK and Sweden took part by making submissions to the working group. So what has happened recently? Apparently, Julian Assange was spending a lot of his time essentially living in the embassy, at the embassy in Ecuador. And there he was continuing to do his work with WikiLeaks. But as a result of him recently leaking a great deal of information about the Democratic National Party and the National Convention, as well as Hillary Clinton and her supporters, suddenly Julian Assange no longer has access to the internet. Ecuador has disconnected him. Hannah said that she knew a little bit more, so even though we were talking about this on the last stream, since it was such shite, I thought I would give Hannah an opportunity to sort of restate that stuff.
Verbatim. Okay, yeah, verbatim. I will use the exact same words, and if you challenge the idea that they are the exact same words, I will accuse you of soggy knees How dare you criticize me? I am a girl. And with that, no, I kind of watched this as it was
You
going
already
on.
fucked it up.
Yeah.
They're the exact same words, but
That
not
was the
necessarily
exact same words. You just aren't listening because I'm a girl.
Yeah, men.
Bad men. Anyway, no. There's been quite a bit of speculation about this. Actually, there's been a lot more speculation about this than there has been news about this. So, to clear up a few things, it's been discussed and theorized that Assange is dead, and that's, I think, been pretty much debunked. He came out with some images and a video saying he was okay. But his internet was cut off, and let's see, on October 16th, there was a sudden publication of 3 series of numbers. Each one of them said pre-commitment and then a name. So there was one for John Kerry, one for Ecuador, and one for the UK FCO. And shortly after that, on the 17th, it was confirmed that Julian Assange's internet link had been intentionally severed by a state party. And this was something that, like, that was where all the speculation was, because those numbers came out and there was no explanation for them. They were supposed to be, by people, to be dead man's keys. And it's quite possible that these were triggered by Assange not doing something because his internet connection was cut off. So that's why they were published. And it did say, the appropriate contingency plans have been activated. Beyond that, let's see, the next thing that I saw, it was confirmed at 3:27 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on October 17th that it was Ecuador that cut off Assange's internet access. It's 5 p.m. GMT, it says in the tweet, shortly after publication of Clinton's Goldman Sachs speeches. And then it goes on. There's been quite a bit of discussion about this on Reddit. So going on to the things that are actually confirmed, the next thing that I can confirm is that they started accusing him of a pedophilia. There was a manufactured, and it's been made pretty clear now that it was manufactured accusation. And this manufactured accusation has been traced back to a sort of a sham of a business, not an actual business, but one that looks like it was put together just to have something that this could come from. And according to the background, now there's a link, a tweet that's been sent out by WikiLeaks, linking to this. That one came out yesterday, to this background and documents on attempts to frame Assange as a pedophile and a Russian spy. And it goes through and it gives all the details. And the basic details are that this self-claimed dating agency contacted him, and they claimed to be approached by the Russian government. They attempted to get him embroiled in a video, making a video, basically appearing in a video for the dating site, supposed dating site, and that he was going to get, $1 million from the Russian government for this. Assange essentially smelled something off with this. Obviously, that it kind of stinks just talking about it all at once, and backed out of the idea. But they tried to go further with it anyway. They, on October 4, filed a complaint with the United Nations Global Compact System. They basically labeled him as a pedophile. Now, Redditors on the WikiLeaks subreddit have traced this back to a company called Premise Data Corporation, and they have found all kinds of information on this. There is currently a page on this. It's on the front of the WikiLeaks subreddit. Actually, there's a few pages on this, but the one that WikiLeaks linked to that they tweeted out actually is showing that there's a picture of Hillary Clinton with the founder of the company, showing more connections between Clinton and this company. So this company that's tried to smear Assange as a pedophile in the midst of Assange releasing information that is hitting the Clinton campaign very hard is now traced back to the Clinton campaign. So it's like it looks like tinfoil hat stuff, but at the same time, it's confirmed. It's not tinfoil hat stuff. We're looking at an actual conspiracy to silence Assange because he is releasing information that is demonstrating a degree of corruption in the American political system. It's like, I think I said before, it's like somebody took the revelations that started Gamergate and amped them up to the 10th power and applied them to politics in the United States. It's the same thing. It's the same kind of corruption. It's the same kind of pay for play. It's collusion between media and the people they're covering. It's a fix on aspects of politics that are not supposed to be fixed. There's supposed to be competition for certain types of jobs and things like that. So it's the same kind of thing. It's just that now it's applied to our government, which makes it that much scarier. And like I said before, the popcorn factor on this is kind of exploding. Picture the scene from Real Genius with the house and the popcorn. This is kind of what's going on right now. And it would be even more so if it wasn't a little scary, realizing exactly how much American politics is manipulated by this. And this is all coming out at the same time that it's coming out that there are hordes of dead voters, that there's a great deal of manipulation in our voting system. So we're seeing quite a bit here. And then I think one of you guys, I can't remember which person actually found the video, the CNN video. CNN cuts off feed of Representative Chris Collins when he brings up WikiLeaks. Who was talking about that?
That was me.
That's been on Twitter all day. That's been bouncing around. Like, people have actually been posting the live video of it. So,
yeah, there's a Reddit. Actually, that's the pinned post on WikiLeaks subreddit.
Yeah.
So they're talking about. There's like 198 comments on that. I will mention that CNN is one of the organizations that has been clearly demonstrating to be collaborating with the Clinton campaign very heavily. So it's quite possible that this was actually done by CNN, not anything else. It's more likely that CNN itself cut this off than anything else.
Well, no, they had to. You don't just, like, in the middle of an interview, you don't just go to color bars. That's something that CNN absolutely had to do themselves. Yeah.
There's some people saying that the government cut it off. I don't think the government did it. I think this is CNN. They cut it out because the guy mentioned.
Well, here's the way it works. When you're doing a live feed like that, there's a delay, and the director can actually throw up color bars, or you can cut away from something, and there's like a 7-second to a 10-second delay. So they have a little bit of buffer room. So as soon as he started, he probably had his finger on the button, and as soon as he said WikiLeaks or any trigger words, basically he's like, bloop, color bars. All right, we're cutting now back to Cuomo and whoever else in the 2-shot. So they absolutely did it. They absolutely did it.
That's the delay that's supposed to be there, just in case anybody, has a moment where they say one of those words that you're not allowed to say on broadcast television in the United States.
Or you have a guy run up in the background and go, grab him by the pussy.
Yeah, which they fail at all the time.
Right.
Like, there have been people that have committed suicide on live newscasts, and it's been broadcast because they haven't hit that button fast enough. So,
like the senator back in the 80s. I was actually watching that live when it happened.
Yeah, that was quite a. But they managed to hit it this time. Boy, they were ready.
Oh yeah.
So, you're the CNN. Speaking of CNN, they put out you guys can hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, they recently said that CNN warned that reading WikiLeaks was illegal, and that if anyone is supposed to be reading them, only CNN can tell you what's really in the emails. Like going through the emails was illegal if you weren't CNN. And it was their job to basically go through and tell you what was in them. Yeah. And they have explicitly said that. I was actually in the airport going to LA when I was watching CNN because it was on. And the guy said, you know that going through that stuff is illegal and so you should just wait until we go through it for you and then tell you what's in the emails. So they're clearly damage controlling on behalf of.
Pay no attention to the little emails behind the curtain.
Yeah, exactly. And even I got this article here by the freethoughtproject.com, which also sort of talked about that. So this Julian Assange thing is, to me, it's far more important than I think enough people give it credit for. And you are seeing things that we would normally dismiss as tinfoil hat. It's looking really, really plausible.
Well, I mean, you got to look at it like this too, Brian. Like when you're talking about what's going on with Assange, you kind of got to look at the broader picture, and you got to bring up Aaron Swartz, who was the guy who started Reddit. He was very much, in the camp of, give the people the information and let them decide and all this kind of thing. And they went after him to the point where he actually killed himself. So, it's like Assange is in the same situation.
Did Ellen Powell? Did Powell come in after Schwartz?
Yeah. That was all afterwards.
She was the next in line?
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I think she came in a few years later. I don't know if she was like right in there, but that was definitely after the fact, though. But yeah, you look at that situation where basically the government hounded Schwartz for years, and he had finally gotten to the point where he didn't see a way out, and they were going to put him in prison for, I believe, the minimum mandatory sentence was going to be 35 years to life. Mm-hmm. So Assange is facing that same kind of thing, and that's why this is so serious. Because if he does get taken into custody, they're going to kill him. I mean, I have no doubt that they're either going to, by letting him die in prison and cutting him off from everything, just like they're doing with Bradley Manning, or just straight out there was this weird little accident. He got a bullet in the back of his head falling down an elevator shaft. It's just like they are trying to shut down information. This is very, very obvious. We are seeing all the conspiracy theories come to life. Like they're coming to the forefront.
This is an administration. The emails that have come out, this is an administration associated with people who joke about, hitting people with drones. Can't we just drone this guy? That's the mentality that we're dealing with here.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we're also dealing with the fact that, like, it's like I've said this before. It's like when you discuss Hillary Clinton or the Clintons in general, there's the joke that, oh, you better not say anything bad about the Clintons because you might end up dead. And there's a reason people say that. And it's like, it's not like, I can't say for sure that it's a factual indictment because, everything is very mysterious or whatever, but
it's true
there is a preponderance of evidence that these things keep happening in association with these certain people that like, oh wait, maybe there's something going on here. It's like we're talking about a larger system, though. It's not just Clinton, and it's like it's not a Democratic or Republican thing. It's a governmental thing. Our governmental system is broken. It is totally fucked, and we're getting screwed. So it's like this is really bad. The stuff that's happening is really bad, but you got to really understand there's a much larger picture here. It's not just one person.
I never thought I'd say this, but I think we should entrust Fox News with the information. They don't want either candidate to win. They are, as a matter of fact, for the first time ever, the most fair and balanced news network.
The only guy, no, seriously, I think the only guy that's actually going through the emails in the news is Sean Hannity or something like that, which is like, this is like Twilight Zone shit. I mean, I never would have listened to that guy.
What is this, the Berenstain universe or whatever it is?
Yeah, Hannity's actually going through and looking. Well, of course, Hannity is a diehard Republican, so this stuff is coming out about Hillary. Of course, he's going to report it, but he's going to report things that are not going to be covered. My approach used to be, I would look at what the left media is publishing. I would look at what the right media is publishing. Then I would go on the internet and use what I had seen there as search terms to dig up the actual story. But I recommend looking at WikiLeaks links on Twitter directly. I recommend going directly to the WikiLeaks site. And there are, this is really awful, but you almost have to look at the conspiracy shit sites, like the ones that people are losing their shit when they're talking on these sites. Go to they're actually finding, and you can then go and find those emails on the WikiLeaks site and confirm whether or not what these guys are reporting is true. So you're not going to be fooled by going there and they say, no, aliens are in this one email, and then you believe in no. You can go look. You find the search engine on the site. You can actually search the emails for the terms that they're reporting and see if those emails actually exist. So it's not like you can't fact check these guys. So God, go to the conspiracy sites. I can't believe I'm recommending the conspiracy sites, but go to the conspiracy. They're the ones that actually are, published the facts about the sex allegations against Trump. They're the ones that actually came out and pointed out that the one accuser that was claiming that he abused her on an airplane lied about the way the armrest worked on the airplane. And there were other things that they exposed about these accusers that most of the mainstream media isn't really saying much of anything. Breitbart has been good. Breitbart's been real good about reporting some stuff, and so you probably will be able to find information there as well. But no, on this you're going to have to go read these crazy sites, the ones that have the reputation for being completely out there, and then read Breitbart, look at the stuff on Fox News, and then search and confirm it for yourself.
There's other thing I wanted to go back to. This comes down to why would we bring it up on the Polecat as a story? And I think it's multiple layers to it. I think the Assange story is important because it reminds me of the way Gamergate was treated, which we've already talked about, a little bit earlier. And then the other thing is the ability for the media to simply, if they want to destroy a man's reputation, if they want to ruin his credibility, all they need to do, or at least they believe that they need to do, is make an accusation of some kind of sexually predatory behavior. Because we will respond to that with a very visceral and emotional response. So with Trump, they tried to accuse him of, sexual predation and generalized misogyny. Yeah, that was like the go-to. They say, oh yeah, he raped women and all this because he talked shit on a bus one time. And with Julian Assange, they decided to accuse him of pedophilia. They even tried to accuse Trump of pedophilia as well because they made the accusation that one of the people who he did this with was a 13-year-old girl. And the reason why I bring it up is whether it's true or not, it's so easy for them to do that because most people, if they think, if you have a low opinion of men already, or maybe that you have an expectation that they might be predatory, then simply making the accusation that they are pedophiles or that they're creepers or that they're womanizers or whatever is a really quick and easy way to get people to ignore them, to dismiss them, to treat them as monsters, and therefore none of their views, none of the things that they've accomplished, none of the stuff that they want to do matters anymore, because now you're in this box. Now you're talking about whether or not Julian Assange is a pedophile. And why would they even use that against him?
Well, you know why though, Brian, right? Because you remember when this whole thing first started, they tried doing the rape angle. They tried, oh yeah, there's 3 women that that he raped, and they're going to come forward and da-da-da-da-da. And people basically, that's not, not sexy enough, but it's not a big enough thing. It's not enough wow factor to get people to hate Assange, because this has been going on for so long. At this point, people are starting to forget who Assange is. So they bring in the fucking pedophilia, and it's like, oh no, like you said, it's like people start reacting and not thinking. They stop thinking. They're like, oh god, pedophiles, oh that's bad. We should be against that. It's like, so
it's a wrecking ball.
Yeah. They're poisoning the well, basically. They're trying to poison the well again, whereas the rape thing didn't really do anything. They didn't get the reaction that they wanted, I don't think. So it's like, well, all right, we got to ramp it up a little bit. So it's like, obviously, the next logical step is to go for the pedophile angle.
Have you noticed, and Jax mentioned this in the chat too, every angle of this has used sexual misconduct accusations from some way or another. I mean, like the right's bringing up, Bill Clinton's history and everything, and some other accusations against Hillary's camp. And then you have, of course, Hillary's camp bringing up accusations against Assange and bringing up accusations against Trump. It's like all of this other information is coming out. It's just like the same thing that we saw. I'm going to get in trouble here with Islam. Here we have all of these horrible things happening in the Middle East. People being beheaded, people being crucified for blasphemy and for leaving the religion and things like that. And a level of outrage that is assigned to those is not high enough to get people really riled up. But then as soon as accusations of any sexually predatory behavior comes out, everything explodes. It's like we can't seem to get upset about, we've got stuff coming out in these emails about collusion between donors that have supported terrorist organizations like ISIS and the Hillary Clinton campaign, collusion between the campaign and reporters, voter fraud, all kinds of stuff like voters are dead now. Voters are not your audience, right? We've got all of that coming out, and yet the thing that's flying, the thing that's really getting play is these sexual misconduct allegations. And a lot of them are flimsy and petty. Like a nudge? Are you kidding me? And bringing up allegations that when they first came out 20 years ago, like the majority of them couldn't be confirmed. And they're not the candidate, they're the candidate's husband. And yeah, he would be the first man, but there are other things that are bigger than that to talk about. And they're getting ignored because America's obsessed with sexual misconduct allegations. I mean, that's just sad.
It's funny how 20 allegations of sexual misconduct was enough to tank Bill Cosby's career. 17 allegations was enough to, Bill Clinton is doing fine. But 2 allegations, just 2 of sexual misconduct was enough to turn Julian Assange into global public enemy number 1. Which just goes to show you how fucking subjective it all is, right?
Yeah. Well, the first one has actually been soundly debunked.
Sorry, on.
Yeah, I just wanted to, just in regards to all these allegations of sexual misconduct and I guess general hurtfulness towards women, generalized misogyny towards men in order to shut them up. I think that you guys in the U.S. you are entering an era of being a one-party system. And the reason why
we already are.
We've been a one-party system.
No, but I mean like one party as in the Democratic Party.
No, we've been. What I'm saying is that I've suspected for quite some time that we've been a one-party system where it's made to look like there's 2 parties that are fighting with each other, and it keeps people at odds with each other, and it keeps people fighting with each other, in the public and everything. But in reality, it's all just one group of people in there, and they're all glad-handing and all, colluding with each other and everything. And I think there's quite a bit more that'll come out in the future if we ever get anybody who's not part of that, in charge in Washington.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I'm saying is that this election is interesting because on the surface it appears to be the one-party system of the U.S. government against somebody who's a bit of an upstart. I wonder if that is the reality, or if that's something. And when I look at this particular election, because it seems to me that elections really are about making people think that there is something like that their choice matters in any sense of the word. And I wonder, how are they going to up the ante for 2020?
Right.
Because this election, they basically presented the establishment against and media and the government itself against a candidate. How are they going to one up that? Like, how are they going to make people think that their vote is meaningful in 2020? That's what I'm thinking about. Because this seems like
it's going to turn into, they're going to go misogyny, I think, at this point, because that's the last thing that they can do as for outrage clicks, basically. Because, like you said, this is
yeah, that's already.
Well, I mean, they'll probably push it even further, though. I think because I can't really see any other outcome, honestly. Because, like you said, there's like this illusion of choice at this point. It's like It is a single party system. It's like, because when you look at like our political history over like the last 20 years or so, no matter who gets in, the same shit keeps happening. So it's like there's no differentiating between the two parties, because they keep making things more comfortable for corporate interest and for their own interest, and less for, you know, the citizenry. So it's a very much a one party system at this point. It has been for quite a while.
And we've got a situation here where, like not saying that Trump is not establishment, because he's, you know, this is a corporate establishment guy. I wouldn't call him political establishment. He's spent the last like 20, 25 years saying he wasn't going to run for president, and being interviewed about, like everybody's interviewed him on this. Even Oprah's talked to him about running for president, about the financial policies of the presidents that have come before him, you know, before this election. And this is a situation where it is establishment versus establishment. The thing that they could do, and it might not be it might be the public that does it, if our vote matters. And I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I'm going to try anyway. I'm going to go vote. But if Trump gets elected, in the next election, we may see the Perot effect eliminated. And for people that are younger than me, the Perot effect is back in the Clinton era, when Clinton was running for president. Ross Perot gained enough popularity as a third-party candidate that it looked like he was going to win the election. And then he dropped out. And then it looked like Bush was going to win. And then Perot started running again. And he split the Republican vote. And so Clinton's first term, the majority of the American people voted against Bill Clinton. But he won the presidency because he got the most electoral votes. And since that time, American voters have not trusted a third-party candidate. Now, Trump was rejected, soundly rejected, by the Republican Party establishment for most of his campaign. Now, there are people that are warming up to him now because it looks like he might win. There are people that are warming up to him now because they don't have a choice. You know, he's already won the primary. But because of that, you know, if he is able to win this election, that's a demonstration that you do not have to be political establishment. And the fact that you don't have to be political establishment to win the election means that it's entirely possible that there may be a chance that a third-party candidate, like a libertarian candidate or an independent candidate, could win the next presidency. Whether it's 4 years or 8 years or whatever, it's entirely possible that people will not be afraid to vote neither Democrat nor Republican, but something else. You know, on a degree where we might actually have somebody win who is neither Democrat nor Republican.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about all of this, and this is just, it's not a fully formed thought. It's something that's just sort of an impression that's coming out of this. This is political theater, and it almost feels like the establishment is casting. It's almost like this is going to be cast as Hillary's triumph. Well, it already is triumph over male entitlement, male privilege, patriarchy, all of the forces of evil in our society. It's going to be Hillary's triumph over that. It's like a passion play. It's like I said, political theater, a passion play. And it feels to me more like it's a consolidation of the power of, and I don't even know if it's like, before this point, you could have said it was, even though it's really a one-party system, at least it seemed like there was a two-party system. I think from this point onwards, it's going to be an overt one-party system. Like, it's going to be Democrats or you're a misogynist swine. I mean, it somehow,
if Hillary wins.
Yeah, and it almost feels like that's what it's being set up as. It is the triumph of women over the horrible scourge that is men, and it's a religious passion play.
They already played that card in a way with Obama when they said you either vote for Obama or you're a racist. Yeah, and that was one of the ways. That was one of the ways they got people to vote for him. if you weren't already going to vote for him because you wanted to see a black president. Most of the time, that was what motivated people's votes in the first place. When he was going up against Mitt Romney in the second term, that was the whole setup. It was basically Mitt Romney he represents rich, white, religious men, and Obama's like the black guy. So, are you a racist? You're not? Well, then you should vote for Obama. And they did the same thing. But you see, I don't think that's as effective as when you put a woman against a man.
Yeah.
So this could go that way. Now, it all depends, though, because Hillary's definitely using a lot of feminism to push people to vote for her. But what it comes down to is how sick of feminism is the average American. And I'm starting to see that they really are.
Yeah, but I don't know if it matters. This is going to be the triumph of our moral elites over us debased plebeians. This is the beginning of a theocratic one-party system with feminism as its doctrine.
It depends. Honest to God, it depends. It depends on whether Americans' votes are actually going to be counted. And it's terrifying that can actually be seriously doubted, and the act of doubting it doesn't make you a crazy conspiracy theorist. I feel like there's an old movie, I think it was called Conspiracy Theory, with Mel Gibson, where they made him nuts to hide the fact,
I remember that movie.
since because he was crazy, because he acted crazy, nobody believed him, but he was right. This is starting to feel like that freaking movie. It feels crazy to worry that our votes are going to be ignored, and a person who is pre-planned to be president is going to be put into our presidency. That feels like an insane thing to say, an absolutely insane thing to say. And yet it's not insane to consider that possibility right now because of all of the things that have come out.
Well, we've heard people say that this is Hillary's turn. That's been a common refrain. That has been a common refrain for a long time now.
Yeah, this is something I want to point out. Hillary Clinton and the narrative that has been promoted around Hillary Clinton, this is evidence that we are not ready for a female president. Because what we've got here is, for a woman to become president, she had to become the political establishment. And she had to become a globalist. She had to engage in all kinds of collusion and corruption that led to, her being able to get around the voter instead of court the voter and win the voter and get the voter behind her. That's the first thing. The second thing is she is able to play the misogyny card as a get out of criticism free card. And she's actually been able to use, and her followers also have been able to use, you're just going after Hillary because she's a woman and you can't stand women in powerful positions, as a response to all of the criticism and all of the facts that have come out from the WikiLeaks emails dumps. So we have a situation where we have a person running for president who can act in corrupt manners and who can break the law, who can ignore the interests of the American people with impunity, because she can use the misogyny card as a shield against consequences to that.
Well, you know, here I don't know if she's using the misogyny card as a shield. I think she's using her political power as a shield more than anything. But that's publicly, though. Yeah, she puts it out there. But I mean, we're talking about somebody who is well, yeah, but we're talking about somebody who is so deeply entrenched in the political system. She's been a part of it for what, 4 decades now, 5 decades now, or whatever it's been. However long she's been around in it.
30 years. 30.
Hillary has been campaigning on it's time for a woman in the White House. That's been a big campaign thing for her. And there's been a lot of people that have responded. Like, I've been watching it on Twitter and I've been watching a little bit on other sites. People are responding to all of this information about the corruption that's coming out with, this is just a way to keep a woman out of the White House. The people that support Hillary Clinton are actually ignoring this stuff on the basis that it's an attack on her because she's a woman.
It's the Ghostbusters effect. Is basically is what's happening.
Yeah.
Why don't you just hate the movie because it's women and you're misogynist? Yeah, no, because the movie's bad. Sorry.
Isn't there like a law for that or something where it's like I can't remember. It's like if somebody criticizes feminism, that's legitimate reasons for feminism to exist.
Oh yeah,
or something
I
like
forget
that.
the name of it. Lewis's law, I believe it is. I think it's Lewis's law. Any comment on a video or article about feminism is proof that we
feminism
need
needs
more
to exist. Yeah.
I'm surprised.
But we will not be ready for a woman in the White House until a woman can stand in front of her critics and deal with the criticism at face value, up front, directly, without bringing her gender into it at all.
Or she gets chided for doing it and she's not allowed to do it. But it's amazing to me that the powers that be didn't realize that they could create a completely uncriticizable class. Essentially what they created in Hillary is a theocratic class that cannot be questioned because she's a woman. She cannot be morally questioned because she is morally superior to anyone who questions her. And I'm just going to point out that the Republicans will never get another candidate in the White House unless they run a woman against a man now. And even then it'll be close because the Democrats have wrapped up this war on women rhetoric, which turns people's brains off.
We've run women. You know what happens when the Republicans run women and blacks? The Democrats attack them in very sexist and racist ways.
Remember Sarah Palin?
They do exactly the same thing to Republican candidates that are minorities or female that they accuse their opponents of doing. And it's not that all of their attacks are like that. There were legitimate criticisms of those candidates as well. But those were not the ones that got focused on.
But I think this is beyond Republican and Democrat. We now have an unseen shadow theocratic government that's going to be ruling the roost. They're going to be running the show. And they have been for a while, and I guess they clued in finally that if they just put a woman in, she can do whatever she wants. She could strip the U.S. citizens of all of their human rights, and nobody would be able to criticize her because
and Hillary's talking about doing that actually in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
What we really need is a female libertarian candidate.
Yeah.
Because of all of the third party.
No. Jill Stein is Green Party. That's not the same.
Well, no, and the Green Party has very little support, and it's because they're so narrowly focused. You know, there's nothing wrong with having a Green Party, but to be honest, the party that if there's going to be a party and not an independent running, the party that looks to have the greatest chance of getting a candidate in at the White House level is the Libertarian Party.
Yeah. By the way, I want to move on to the next story, which is connected to this one. Before I do want to point out that Jill Stein, speaking of the Green Party and speaking of Jill Stein, she herself said Hillary should not be allowed to become president. So she is against her becoming president. And not because she didn't even in that statement say you should vote for me. I think that Jill Stein is kind of aware at this point that she's not likely going to be president. Just because these third-party people have so little support, but more importantly, they have very little exposure. So most people don't even know that they exist, and they've already made their mind up whether they're going to vote for Hillary or Trump.
Well, so you know, part of the problem is too is like when you're looking at this, the people that are running third-party generally are fucking idiots. For the most part, they're idiots, and they're not very charismatic. And sadly,
where is Aleppo, Scott?
Well, you know, we're such a celebrity-obsessed culture that you have to be slick. You have to be camera savvy. You have to be, you know, you have to have this very kind of, you know, this air about you. And you know, Ralph Nader and Gary Johnson and all these other classic, you know, Ross Perot. Well, Ross Perot is a different story, but for the most part, these people are not charismatic. They're not slick. They don't have silver tongues. They're not these sharp political figures that have been in the world of politics and have been kind of, you know, forged in that arena. These are generally people that are like activists or, you know, people speaking out, like a Ralph Nader who ran for many, many years and didn't get anywhere because he's just kind of like, well, I'm Ralph Nader. I'm kind of like Ben Stein, you know. It's like I'm just kind of this dude. You know, he sounds like that the whole time. Yeah, you know, he's not very slick. So unfortunately, people care about the aesthetic more than they do about the content.
Well, there's another aspect to this too. the press covers the two main parties. They cover the Democrats, they cover the Republicans, they cover the conflict between the Democrats and the Republicans. You don't see hardly anything, about any of the third-party candidates. And the debates, they don't allow the third-party candidates into these debates. And their excuse is they don't have a lot of support. Well, we don't cover them because they don't have a lot of support. We don't allow them into the debates because they don't have a lot of support. How are they supposed to get that support? They've extensively covered the primary elections for the two major parties. They don't cover the primary election very much for even the Libertarian Party. And the rest of the parties, they don't even bother saying anything about them until the actual, election. And even then, there's very little reported and they get very little publicity. So the press, in effect, is unpaid advertising for the establishment candidates. This is the establishment feeding itself.
Yep.
Okay, guys.
Well, and that's why Perot had such success, though, because he had the money be like, fuck it, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
You can't stop me.
And plus, he was interesting to listen to. The way he talked was hilarious.
Yeah. We got to move on, though. We got to move on because we're running out of time. So next story. This is connected. Gallup, I'm sharing the screen already, inexplicably smears Donald Trump while misleadingly reporting on its sexual assault survey data. So I don't know who sent this through to me, but when I first saw, thank whoever that was. I think it was Allison, actually. Gallup just released news.
I think it was Hannah.
Okay. Gallup. Oh yeah, Hannah. This you sent this, I think. Gallup just released new survey data on sexual assault as part of its Gallup Social Series. This adds to over a decade of Gallup data that shows comparatively few Americans frequently worry about sexual assault, and even fewer have actually been victims of sexual assault. What?
Well, what I was going to say is it's even misleading in the headline because this isn't a survey on sexual assault. It's a survey on attitudes about sexual assault.
Yeah.
Although it does have a sexual assault component, which, it's fine. It was actually consistent with the Center of Disease Control in how many people it finds having been raped in the previous year. Very low amounts. Mm-hmm. And I imagine equally between men and women.
Before I get really into this, Max, you wanted to say something really quick about the previous thing.
Yeah, sorry. I just, when Hannah was talking and she mentioned the name of that movie, it brought up another thing in my mind, and it reminded me. Okay, so sorry. Let me rephrase. We all talk about Orwell's nightmare and how we're all afraid of that becoming true. There's another sort of concept that I just want to introduce very quickly. It's called Kojima's nightmare. For those of you who sort of want to see what the political landscape of America is turning into right now, what I highly recommend you all do is go onto YouTube and type in Metal Gear Solid 2, Who Are the Patriots? And tell me if that series of videos doesn't not accurately, but it almost seems like Kojima, the guy who wrote that game, sort of laid out what our political system, our social system would turn into as a result of the internet and the sort of thought terminating.
Kojima predicted Gamergate, and he predicted this, is what you're saying.
He didn't. Almost. Kind of.
It's freakishly similar.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Anyway, sorry. Thanks for letting me say that, Brian.
No, it's okay, Max. I'm glad you pointed that out. Okay, so no less than 98% of respondents stated neither they nor anyone in their household had been a victim of sexual assault in the last 12 months for every year the survey was conducted. The number rose to 99% for many years and even 100% for 2 years. That would be 2004 and 2014. According to Gallup, sexual assault shows a lower household victimization rate than any other violent crime tested, including physical assault and even armed robbery. That quote was taken from a Gallup article by Gallup's managing editor, Jeffrey M. Jones. Gallup posted the article archived here on its website to explain the data. Unfortunately, the article's explanation strangely appears to be trying to obscure Gallup's data and concoct more sensational-looking statistics. This is bad enough. However, it's even more peculiar that Gallup uses the article to unnecessarily spread completely unrelated allegations of sexual assault and misogyny against presidential candidate Donald Trump, even though Gallup admits its data has nothing to do with Trump. This is very disturbing behavior from one of America's premier polling organizations. Methodology behind the study. Gallup interviewed a random sample of 1,017, that's really odd number to pluck out of your ass, American adults from around the country by phone from October 5th through 9th for the Gallup Social Series poll on crime. As part of the survey, it asked 2 questions. Question 1, how often do you yourself worry about the following things? Frequently, occasionally, rarely, or never? Okay, so these things would be being sexually assaulted. So then they would have to answer frequently, occasionally, rarely, or never. Or doesn't apply, or no opinion. So frequently 7%, occasionally 13%, rarely 25%, never 56%. So people don't generally worry about these things. Please tell me which, if any, of those incidents have happened to you in your household within the last 12 months.
And that was less than
And that was
less than 2%.
It was
for most
1% yes, 99% no.
Mm.
And this is things like being sexually
So
assaulted.
essentially, and later on, it finds that the Gallup poll in presenting its results on how many women are afraid of sexual assault, it actually combined frequently with commonly, I believe, which was different than I think other years. So it changed how it reported its data, I believe. Is that correct?
Let's see. Well, I'll jump to that bit.
Yeah.
The Gallup article explains typically about 1% of Americans say they or a member of their household has been a victim of sexual assault. This is 1% within the last 12 months, and slightly less than 1% say they personally were the victim. That is a lower household victimization rate than for other violent crimes. Most will recognize the Gallup data doesn't support the ridiculous feminist canard that we live in a rape culture. However, that doesn't mean the Gallup data is not without its problems. Survey trick: frequently, occasionally, rarely equals yes. So that's the trick. If you say frequently, occasionally, or rarely, that's a yes. So they basically take something that would potentially be answered on a scale and they make it into a binary. So if you say never, that's no. If you give any other answer, that's a yes.
And that's how they reported on the number of women who were worried about rape.
Yes.
So, if a woman, has a stray thought while walking through an industrial park late at night, that would be a yes. Once a year.
Even if she has only done it once in her lifetime.
Yeah.
And she reported it as a rarely or even a very rarely.
Mm-hmm. She would be yes for worries about rape.
Yes.
Or if she watched.
Well, and there are people who can't.
Not worry about rape.
Yeah, there are people who may not be able to remember ever doing something, but will say they rarely do it because they don't want to say they never do something because people don't like speaking in absolutes.
Yeah,
Well, that's what the Sith does.
And that this survey would have captured those women as well, who would be like, well, I can't say never because really, can you really say never about anything?
Right.
So all of those women were classified as worrying about rape. But here's the thing. When I read this article, I'm like, are they trying to figure out if their propaganda is working? Like, because they do pump out a lot of propaganda to make women afraid of rape. Are they looking at this, and this Gallup poll, is it working, guys? Do we need to create more? Do we need to make women afraid of men more? Do we need to put out more "Are you that guy?" or more crap referencing women's unlikely risk of rape? Like, do we need to inflate some more statistics?
That is the goal.
And then they turn around and they say that use of fear of rape is part of patriarchal control of women.
Which is funny because feminists have used fear of rape more than any other group. In fact, they've used it to get laws passed all over the world.
Notice the distortion of the way that they're questioning. Because I notice people in the chat are saying, surely, like Jax, she says, surely have you been sexually assaulted is a yes or no answer. And whether a person is worried about it or not doesn't matter. But they're doing a conflation here. They do mention that they ask about whether or not a person or a person that lives in the household, like a friend or relative of the person, has been sexually assaulted. That was studied, and they came to the conclusion that it was about 1% of Americans that will say that a member of their household has been a victim, and slightly less than 1% will say that they were the victim. But Then there's another series of questions that ask you, are you worried about being sexually assaulted? And then they do that on a scale, frequently, occasionally, rarely, and never. If you answered rarely, occasionally, or frequently, then they take that and they say that means yes. And then nevers are the no. And so because most people don't say never, because, you know, on some level, everyone does worry about some kind of assault in their life, and because Hannah said people generally don't want to say never, even if they're not sure, then it's going to look like more people are worried, and that becomes a more useful study.
Well, and
if you have like a feminist bent.
The thing I want to point out again is it's the worry that feminists have used. I mean, now, granted, feminist research is entirely different from this. They don't ask if you have been sexually assaulted or not. They ask questions about your sex life, and then they decide that certain aspects of your sex life determine that you were sexually assaulted, even though when they do those surveys, if they ask the respondents if they define those experiences as sexual assault, they very often get a very different result than the researcher's definition of those experiences. So they're using that fear to attack your due process rights. And I don't know if I can emphasize enough how significant that is. That is the method by which the due process rights that stand in the way if the state wants to shut you down are removed. If the state wants to come in and say, you can't say that, it's treason, about something that right now you can say, you can criticize your government in the United States. You know, if they want to come in and say you can't criticize the government, they have precedents as far as removing your right to defend yourself. Well, you can't submit this evidence, you can't submit that evidence, you can't be guaranteed to face your accuser if your accuser is embarrassed or afraid of you. You know, things like that have already been used. Fear has already been used to take away some of your rights if you're a United States citizen, to defend yourself in a court of law if you're accused of sexual misconduct, violation of sexual assault laws. So that could actually be moved to other areas of law, and it's already being tried. And that's what this fear campaign is about.
You know, Hannah, you and I have actually collaborated on a couple of things over the last month or so. And what I'm seeing here is sort of a reflection of the things that we discovered in these other reports. Like, for example, we were looking at the original reports that determined that 1 in 5 women are sexually assaulted on college campuses. Yet the only reason they came up with that number was because of how they determined what was actually a violation or what isn't. Because when you look closer at the data that created that number, it says that 25% of the women that they determined only 25% of the women that they determined as being sexually assaulted said that they actually were sexually assaulted, whereas 75% of the women that they surveyed said they weren't sexually assaulted. And also, on top of this, it's really interesting that the way that this data was manipulated in this report was based on that scale where it's like frequently, rarely, that whole thing. On a video that I did on my channel, sorry for the shill, there was a meme, a popular feminist meme that was passed around that said 30% of women said they would rape a woman if they could get away with it, and then 58% said they would do it if they changed it to force a woman to have sex.
Just a clarification, you said 30% of women. It's 30% of men, right?
Right, men. My mistake.
To ask women, because it's an Orkin statistic, it's meaningless. It could be 98% of women would rape a man if they could get away with it.
The question is, could you rape a man if you could get away with it? No, of course I can't rape. I'm a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so thank you very much for clarifying that. What I was just going to point out is that the way that those numbers were created was pretty much exactly the exact same as how these numbers were created by Gallup. The study that those were based on were done by a man named Neil Malamuth, and men were asked if hold on. I'm just trying to remember this. Men were asked on a scale of 1 to 5 if they would rape a woman if they could get away with it, and
it wasn't rape. Max. It was force or I think if there was no consequences, would you not? I don't even know if it was
kiss
force.
a woman.
Or no, it was if there were no consequences, would you force a woman to have sex? And the problem is the ambiguity there is, do you mean no consequences to yourself? Do you mean no consequences to the person? In other words, is it like
would she
a
be
ravishment
willing, or
a ravishment scenario from like a romance novel? Is it a situation where you're just being forceful as opposed to actually forcing someone against their will? There's a difference, because you can.
When you say force, it can mean a lot of things, because like sometimes a woman that is into you and that she is into you and you're into her and and she knows you're into her, she might like it if you're a bit, like forceful. Yeah. Like that might be a turn on. That might be something she's into. So because it's so ambiguous.
Yeah, well, specifically, it's ambiguous because it says forced, I think, or and then it also says without consequence.
Yes.
So in other words, they did the same thing that Cost did. They used deliberately ambiguous questions to get more yes answers, where if the people that were answering the questions knew how the researchers were going to interpret the questions, they might not give yes answers.
That was a part of the survey, but actually what I was trying to get at, sorry if it sounded a little bit confused by the way I'm trying to remember it, but what actually happened was men were asked on a scale of 1 to 5 if they could, if they would force a woman to have sex or rape them, if they could get away with it. And on the number of men that answered 1, which is not at all, was around 40%. But 2, 3, 4, and 5, all those were lumped in together, and that's how the numbers 30 and 58% were created. That's exactly what happened there. That's exactly what's happening here. And I wouldn't be surprised if this exact same method is used when it comes to inflating these statistics, especially when it comes to rates of sexual assault and rape. That's all I was trying to say.
All right, cool. Can you guys hear me okay? I can't tell if I'm muted sometimes.
Yeah, man.
All right. So now how does Trump sort of factor into this? And that's where I want to we'll leave it at that. Gallup is considered one of America's respected polling organizations. So I was shocked when the Gallup article unnecessarily injected Donald Trump scandals into the explanation of its data, especially since Gallup clearly states Trump had no effect on the data itself. So why mention it at all? Why devote a paragraph to reminding people about the supposed scandals surrounding Trump? And here's a quote. The audio recording of Trump has made sexual assault and the treatment of women more generally a major issue in the presidential campaign. Trump attempted to dismiss this conversation as nothing more than locker room talk. Last week, however, several women came forward accusing Trump of making sexual advances on them without their consent. Trump has denied the accusations. Again, Gallup itself admits that Trump's actions have no effect on their data. Gallup's annual crime poll was conducted October 5th through 9th, which included 2 days before and 3 days after the October 7th release of the audio tapes of Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump, making references in 2005 to kissing and touching women without their consent. The release of the tapes had no apparent immediate effect on women's worry about being sexually assaulted. The percentage worried was already up from 2013, 2015, those levels on October 5th through 6th polling, and was no higher on the October 7th through 9th polling. Emphasis added. So why even bring Trump at all? If I wanted to be generous, I might suggest that Gallup may actually be trying to preemptively avoid any possible connection between its data and Trump, but that Gallup might actually be trying to keep this data from being a political tool. However, if this is the case, why not also remark on whether or not the numerous and often more credible sexual assault scandals of the Clintons recirculating through the media have affected people's worry about sexual assault? Stories of the numerous allegations of rape, sexual harassment, and sexual impropriety against Bill Clinton. It's suspected the resurfacing of these allegations forced Hillary to backtrack on her campaign position that survivors of sexual assault have the right to be believed. Allegations that Hillary Clinton intimidated Bill's victims into silence. Audio of Hillary Clinton laughing at getting a greatly reduced sentence for a man charged with raping a 12-year-old girl during her time as a lawyer, possibly with the help of some very suspicious handling of evidence, when she clearly believed he was guilty. So why not talk about all this? Better yet, why not make a more neutral statement about how the topic of sexual assault has often been mentioned during the election season, but does not appear to have affected people's worries regarding being sexually assaulted? Likely because Gallup is trying to create or strengthen the association between sexual assault and misogyny and Donald Trump in American voters' mind. I don't know if Gallup has ever explicitly stated that it is nonpartisan, but this level of brazen, out-of-place political bias by one of the Americans' most prestigious polling organizations just seems unreal. It certainly adds credibility to Trump's supporters' accusations of bias against Trump by both mainstream media and polling organizations.
I wouldn't be surprised. Sorry, I just want to say this very quickly. I wouldn't be surprised.
Before you get into anything, I'd just like to credit recalculating the genderwar.tumblr.com, because this is an opinion piece, and they did the research. So we shouldn't present this like it's something that was done by us. So thank you to recalculatingthegenderwar.tumblr.com for this. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Max.
Yeah, I just wanted to put this out there, and I just wanted to say that I wouldn't be completely surprised if after the election happens that the people at Gallup or wherever start to criticize Hillary again. Maybe the reason why this is happening is because they just want to make these associations now just so they can keep Trump out of the White House. And then they'll go back to trying to appear nonpartisan.
Max, guess what? You just figured out the con.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I mean, this stuff will evaporate after whoever wins. Well, okay, not if whoever wins. If Trump wins, it probably won't evaporate. But if Hillary wins, all this stuff will just go away magically. It'll be like, oh, what happened? It's so weird. It's a bright new day. We don't remember anything that's happened over the last 6 months. God, gee, I got the vapors thinking about all that evil, bad stuff. And it's just like, it's going to go away. It always does. Every election cycle, it's this 6-month hysterical fucking frenzy. And then the thing gets done, and then everybody all of a sudden forgets. It's like, oh, everything's okay now. It's cool. All right, back to normal.
Is that how you wake up in the morning?
Yeah.
There's an extent to which, say Hillary's opposition will continue to talk about this. You'll know that something really bad is going on when they stop. Because either there will have been some legal maneuvering, or they will have been threatened, or there is collusion going on. But you'll know, and I mean, any of the three of those things could happen, because we've got definite threats to speech rights in the United States right now going on. We've got threats to internet freedom. We've got all kinds of effort to prevent people from political dissidents, and this is not a new thing. I mean, this has been going on for years and years here. This goes back before the Patriot Act, actually, but it's on high right now. I mean, it's amped up past 10, and we're looking at something that, like, every election cycle, this kind of thing happens, but I think it's been particularly polarized for the last couple of election cycles, and it's been the threat narratives have been different. Like, I remember when I was in high school and even in elementary school, the threat narrative was Cold War, and we had one candidate on one side always talking about disarmament, and the other candidate going, "Are you crazy?" And we had things like that, and we had the homeless problem. Back in the Reagan elections, it was the homeless is going to increase exponentially because of Ronald Reagan, and he's going to wreck the economy, and this is going to happen, and your grandparents are going to be eating cat food or dog food instead of real food, so they can get their prescriptions, and all kinds of threats like that. But this kind of all this stuff coming out about collusion, and now there's attacks on the ability to discuss that. This kind of stuff is kind of new in the United States. It's not been like this before. And I'm not sure that after the election, things are going to go exactly the way they always have.
All right. Well, thanks, Hannah, for that. That's a really good summarization of pretty much all these stories are kind of linked together. And it's really interesting as we get closer to the end of this fucking journey. we'll see what shakes out, what the media wants to stop fucking talking about, and what they actually want to latch on to. So, but I think Max, you get our politics. Maybe your politics are much different in Canada. I don't know, but you certainly understand American politics. So
sorry, was what I said before just like so obvious that it was cheesy?
well, no, wait, hold on.
No.
Allow me to explain. I think that as an American, most of us that are like thinking as we go through these presidential elections every time they come around, we realize this is a complete and absolute reality, that this is what you're describing is obvious. But since you're Canadian, it may not be as obvious to you. Yeah, so I don't know, because like the stuff leading up to Trudeau's election to become prime minister, and then he, give him the ability to start planking and dancing like however the fuck he dances.
And he also can fake fall downstairs.
And fake falling downstairs. Before you guys, got to the point where you decided to elect that guy with the great hair, was there also a great deal of crazy ass hysteria in your media and a lot of fear mongering and shit? Or did you guys not really do that? Because if you don't, then Canadian politics are genuinely probably different.
Well, we didn't.
Ours.
I don't remember a lot of fear mongering. I remember a lot of people saying that he wasn't ready as a politician. But I'll let Max answer that.
Max.
Allison, isn't your election cycle a lot shorter than ours is too, though?
No, it's 4 years, I think. I don't know.
No,
it's baffling.
The lead into the election.
Like cricket. You don't know. You just don't
how many
how does it work?
How many blurns? How many blurns is in one election cycle?
You see, with the Canadian election cycle, first you have to actually I don't know what's the word? You have to bowl down at least 5 blurns before you can round the seventh slurnma, and then
it's a well-kept secret that Trudeau was elbowing women in the tit left, right, and centre before the election. Nobody brought it up until after.
Well, you got those blurns aren't going to throw themselves down. All right, no, Max, please answer because I'm ignorant.
Okay, but I think that Canadian politics is the exact same thing as United States politics. It's just so much more boring and nobody cares because we're essentially a socialist homeland. It's just people seem to be a lot more complacent because Canadians tend to be nice. As for how people get elected into power, sorry, there's a little bit of an echo. Is that bothering anybody?
It's not bothering me. Let me mute.
Oh, okay. All right. So I was just going to say, in terms of how people get elected into power, I think how it works in terms of parliamentary politics is you have to get above a certain number. I think it's 40% in order to obtain something called a majority government, which is where you are in reign for 4 years. Whereas if it's below 40% of the vote, you get a minority government, and I think it's like every other year there's an election until somebody can obtain a majority government. And then you can just rule however the hell you want for 4 years.
So exactly, you have to at least 5 blurns.
Yeah.
And then you have to round the slurnma.
What's a blurm?
Oh, Jesus, Max. Watch Futurama.
Shut up.
It's a Futurama reference. Anyway.
Slurms. Oh, slurms. You gotta.
No, Blurns ball.
It's
Okay.
the Blurns ball, but the Slurm is the drink that sponsors the Blurns
Yeah,
ball.
I'm just.
And it's made of people.
Just playing for the bean, man. My money's all on someone getting beaned to death.
All right.
Bean.
It's not made of people. It comes from a giant slug.
It's toe
The
tapping.
vagina of a giant
Tragic.
slug, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes,
All right, we have officially swam to the silly place. So we're gonna get out of it. Yeah, we swammed.
Slammed. We're good at English here.
Swammed.
I said swam. But
Kill
you know
it!
what?
Thank
Time
God
to
we
end
were
the
born into
show.
the language, Brian. Otherwise, we might not use it correctly. I mean, God.
Oh God.
Swam it, Brian.
Time to bounce. So we're gonna get out of here. We'll have a decent video up tomorrow.
Yes.
We'll see you tomorrow with something
Unless
better.
CNN takes it down.
Don't listen to us. Only listen to them. They know what's good for you.
Yeah, YouTube's gonna kill this anyway.
Time to go. Thanks, guys. Leave us a comment in the comment section telling us about what you think about the stories. And I'm sure you'll have some glorious meme magic will be coming up pretty soon as the debates will be beginning in an hour and 20 minutes.
Swamming, full swam.
Yes, that's meme magic in
The
action.
debates
right
will be
there.
in full swam.
Time for me to get a drink.
Pepe's out for